everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tea Time Truth Talk with your host, Elisa Pacheco, and my father,
Rev Rich.
And today we're going to do something a little different today. But before we do that,
always subscribe, like, share, make sure the message gets out, as well as hit that bell so you know at all times when we drop another video. And again, we are working on getting everything back on the podcast so that those guys who want to listen on their phones or while they're walking can do so as well. So with that, today we have a special episode.
Yes. So most of our episodes have always been serious and things like that. So in the spirit of the holidays, now I can finally say it's Christmas time, I thought we can do a fun little episode. My dad has been in podcasting for years now, and he has these interview deck cards that you can pull out little questions. And I figured today we'll pull out different cards and we'll answer them based off the question. And you get to know a little bit more about us, as well as fun little thing to do for today. So let's begin.
Let you pick the first one.
Oh boy. All right. So the first question is: when you wake up in the morning, what is your first priority? Well, my first priority for parents, typically kids, their first priority is probably making their beds. I am not that person. My first priority is either find food or use the bathroom. I'm not going to lie to you. My bladder sucks.
Well, for me, is I'm always busy, so I'm constantly, what time is it? Because I don't set an alarm. I believe in sleeping until the body wants to get up. There was a time when I had a morning routine, which I am getting back to, which is meditating in the morning. And I think it was Deepak Chopra used to say RPM. Rise, pee, meditate.
Sounds about right.
So, yeah. So I got to get back to that where I'm getting up, go to the bathroom, get back, do my meditation, and get back into that spiritual sense because, you know, I guess a story I could tell is how your mother came to call me Big Buddha because I was constantly angry. I was always blaming the world. I was constantly whatever. But through the meditation teachings that I learned from Wayne Dyer and all these other people, so that became the morning routine, and it was an evening routine. But like most adults, we get so busy, we end up forgetting and letting things go. We need to remind ourselves to get back to the practice, and this question really did. So,
yeah.
So I guess it's my turn.
Yeah. All right. Oh, no.
What is one surefire way to grab your attention?
Oh, Lord. Food. You tell me there's food, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, especially my favorite foods, you'll grab my attention. Or, unless you're my mom, yell my name. Or my full name. Or just her yelling in general. That will grab my attention. Let me tell you.
See, and I think for me, it's the other way around. If I hear one of my kids crying, hurt, screaming, or your mother, it's like, for me, the world just stops. And I'm like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Or I'm listening carefully to see if I can figure it out without yelling. But it is true. I mean, it's really the only thing to grab my attention. Otherwise, I'm like...
Yeah, well, my mother's scary. So when she calls my name, I'm a-coming. I'm a-coming. Let me tell you.
Just so you know, my facial expression, I'm watching my wife off camera making faces at her daughter.
Love you, Mom. Love you, Mom. I can't. Oh.
All right, it's your pick.
All right. Oh, this is perfect. If you were musically inclined, who would you want to have a private jam session with? Oh, boy.
You know what? The funniest thing, and I'll share this with you. I think I've shared it with you. One of my favorite singers was Joe. And he was an R&B singer, so don't get confused with all the other Joes out there. He saw, like, I Want to Know, things like that are the songs he sang. And I always wanted to meet him. And the funniest thing is that was one of the songs, one of his songs that your mother and I met over because I used to sing that song. But it turned out afterwards that I was at a Legal Shield meeting, you know, and and one of my directors on my team, we were just talking. He goes, "Yeah, you know, I know this guy that does music, blah blah blah. I've known him for ages. He and his mom go back, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, great." I was like, "For real?" Yeah. And he said he sings R&B. He's really good. And his name was, and he gave me the full name. I'm like, "Wait a minute. You're talking about Blank Joe?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone because I had every album on my phone. And he's like, "Yeah, I know him for ages. He lives in Jersey. He's got a house now." And I'm like, and we lost contact regretfully, but he was supposed to introduce me to him and everything.
That's crazy. I think you might have told that story. You told me a lot of stories. For me, honestly, it would either have to be China and McLean or Zendaya. They have been my biggest role models musically and emotionally, mentally, physically for as long as I remember. I've been the biggest fan of theirs. And shoot, if I would be able to have the ability to have a jam session with either one of them or the both of them, bet I would be the happiest person in the world. Happiest person in the world. I'm a huge Disney kid, so they're all over the place. All right.
This comes right down my wheelhouse.
Oh boy.
Would you rather have a cool boss and learn nothing, or a strict boss who you learn from? Funny thing is, you're in that situation now, technically.
See, I don't know, because I can see it both ways. Because yes, you can learn from the strict boss, but at the same time, even if you don't learn nothing from him, you can always learn something outside of him. I guess the right answer should be learn something from a strict boss. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one. Strict boss, learn something. Because technically, at the end of the day, if you learn something from him and still don't like the person, you can just leave and quit.
Well, I also look at it as I'm a young 51.
Oh boy.
All jokes aside, I've been in call center. I've been working call centers since 2000, so you're talking about close to 21 years now. I worked for the police department in New York as a civilian in their call center for probably about 6-7 years as well on top of that. And the strict boss, so in my latest job, the one that I'm moving from now, I had a boss, and you know, we used to call they used to laugh because one of my coworkers used to call him a prickly pear. He's like, outside he had you would touch him and he would sting your fingers, but inside he was sweet and whatever. And it was 100% true. When it came to business, he was on your case, whatever, and you learned stuff because you were held to a standard. But when things did happen in the job with me and my family, whatever, he was quick to be like, we got to fix this now for you. So he was both sides of that. So I did learn because of his strictness. And I tell people all the time, sometimes we judge our bosses based on our own persona. And forget we agreed to do a job. But there's a book by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the points that I use in every job, and I've been a supervisor or manager in many of my positions in call center, and it is the belief that there has to be a balance of the business of business and the business of people. Now, what does that mean? The boss that knows what he's doing needs to be a leader. And what we mean by leader is that he has to be able to balance what makes the business profitable and what policies have to be enforced, but at the same time has a human side and knows how to deal with people and how to handle it. It's not always one or the other. There has to be a balance between the two. And you can definitely learn from someone who lives by that mantra, but at the same note, it's something, even if you're doing your own business, you have to realize as well.
So even in fun episodes, we still learn something today. That's what I got. All right. Oh, wait. My turn.
It's your turn? All right.
probably do about one more each, and then. Gotta be all fancy. All right. Haha. Here's a fun one. If you are a captain of a ship, what would you call it?
Shinobi's Den.
Oh boy.
Well, for those that don't know, Shinobi is the traditional name of what you would call ninjas. But the traditional translation of it is heart over blade, which it talks about perseverance. So Shinobi's Den to me would be that space of perseverance, that being out on the water, just watching the water, the calmness of the water, thinking and, planning maybe your next goal or whatever. So that's why I would call it that way. I always loved the water. I loved fishing. I loved, being out, and I used to go out on this little rowboat in the middle of Rockaway Bay. So trust me, we've gotten caught some currents that.
Oh boy.
So yeah. What would you call it?
I don't know. I'm sorry. My Disney brain went straight to the Jolly Roger, but then I was like, maybe I should come up with an actual name. I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't know. That is definitely a question that is something you sit down and think about. I mean, you always love the word Shinobi, so that kind of makes sense. But like for me, because it could go from like adventurer to lady of the sea. Because again, as just like you, I love the ocean. I love the water. Truthfully, I've only seen it twice. But even before then, I love the color. I love the atmosphere of it. And I love the sea creatures below and all the mysteries that can discover above it as well. So between those two, I think that'd be it. Or, like I said, the Jolly Roger, because who doesn't love the Jolly Roger?
All right, so I'll pick one last card, and then we'll wrap this session up. We don't want to keep you because we can do these cards all day.
Oh, yeah.
This was a good one.
Oh, no.
Especially about what I've done to you kids since you were little.
Oh, no.
What words do you always struggle to spell correctly?
Oh, let me tell you. Let me tell you. And I don't even know if I can say the word no, can you say it?
So there's a running joke that the kids are like, I'm great at spelling. I'm like, okay, great. So everybody runs to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So I used to go to anti-disestablishmentism.
I can't spell that. I'm 19 and I still can't spell that word. I graduated with honors, went to college. I still can't spell that word till this very day. It is that word.
I think the bad part for me, it's one of the easiest English rules that I always stumble over, and it's the I before E except after C. Except when it's A, it sounds like A in neighbor and way. That's how it was taught to me.
That's a whole lot of extra that I didn't know about.
Yeah, because if it sounds like A, so like in neighbor, E comes before I, so forth and so on. So the rule, it is like I'll start writing and then thank God for technology, because all of a sudden Grammarly will jump up and be like, spell check, that's wrong. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I still struggle sometimes with that I-E thing, switching it back and forth.
Honestly, if we're to be quite honest, neither of us can spell, because at the end of the day, or grammar for that matter, we go straight to my mother. Be like, all right, we wrote this, you proofread it, and you fix it. And then not her, then Grammarly. That's how we work.
Yep. So I tend to type very quickly and my mind runs. So as I know that sometimes my mind is saying something, but when I look at what I typed, it wasn't there. So, I just, again, constantly, and this is why self-care is important, because when we talked about the first question, which was meditation, is because when we're constantly on that run and we're trying to multitask, it doesn't always work unless you're focused on what you're doing. So that's why meditation for me is a practice. And, again, I do the meditation Mondays to help everyone even find a one time in the week, something you can kind of do all week, and do easiness. And then there are simple ones. The very first episode, I think I showed the very simple way to get focused. So check it out if it helps.
Yep. So that concludes this episode. Also, the questions that we did asked today, not just between us, but also gets you thinking as well. So don't hesitate to leave comments of different answers you might have on the different questions as well. Some were fun, some were a little serious, so we're curious about that as well. But as always, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And we'll see you in that next episode.
Absolutely.